This is episode 80. Who would like to give a recap of 79?
We made it inside.
That's pretty much it. So yeah, you made it inside the city of Lucianum. You made your way to the Duke. You had a little altercation with the guys guarding the gates. But thanks to calm emotions, you were able to get out of that without killing anyone. The Duke introduced you to, well, you also met Kajika again, but in the Duke's court, you saw there was this giant blue glowing sphere that they're intending to use to try to stop the Empire from bombarding the city into rubble. There was a little bit of research that Clave did on the teleportation circles, which you found were actually in a nearby mountain 30 or 40 miles away. But you now know what you're looking for. You know what the teleportation circle would look like. There was a warning about a metal humanoid figure, probably an iron golem, according to the court wizard. Kajika asked Clave to help him shore up some of the defenses, and so using Mirage Arcana, an inner wall was built in the city that should be within the protection of the anti-magic shell that the sphere can create, and that's there to prevent the Imperial forces from just storming in and physically crossing through the anti-magic shield. And right now, Aurelia went to sleep. I don't know if obviously Clave was still awake. I'm not sure about T-Hole or Zarius, but it is about 2 in the morning now.
I think T-Hole was wandering. T-Hole was wandering for a while, and then headed back to the room where Aurelia was sleeping, and probably would. I think where he left off, where he was finding like a nice corner to sleep in.
What are Zarius and Clave doing?
So, helping Kajika with all the defenses, that would have brought us to about 2 in the morning.
Yes, it'll be about 2 in the morning by the time you get back to the central keep.
Okay. And then what time was the attack expected?
The end of this day. So you're not sure exactly of the time, but probably sometime around sunset of the day you're in now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Clay would probably want to get some sleep then as well, because he'll need all of his energy for whatever it is that may happen.
Zarius too, I assume.
I mean, I was advocating for leaving, but
as everyone lays down to go to sleep.
Right.
Also, Kepri is charmed or something by the sphere itself.
My goal, and yeah, I was attempting to calm her down or whatever, but just, I was just like sort of meditating in that room with the sphere, trying to sort of calm her down.
Right. I mean, so the sense you're getting from her is she's perfectly calm because you convinced her that you too are going to be helping out the Exarch, whoever that is. But she still seems to be under the influence of this thing.
Right. I believe I told her, like, what if the Exarch needs us to leave?
Right. And she acknowledged that was possible.
Right. Fine. She should sleep too, since everybody else is doing that.
Okay. So how long is everyone sleeping? Is anyone not getting the full 8 hours?
I need that full long rest.
Okay, so you sleep for 8 hours. You can hear there's still a lot of activity around the keep as you wake up, but in that room you were put in, there doesn't seem to be, no one has come in.
Well, suppose we'll need to make our way out of here. Don't suppose we could get some breakfast before we try to head out, though. And Teal's gonna look around for Don Petronio.
You eventually find him. He's back in the courtroom again, and they are once again discussing how to deploy troops. Depending on it depends on what the Empire does next after the bombardment. But obviously, the Empire's not going to send anyone in before they try that. You're not sure. You don't know the full extent of their plans, but you found him again.
Okay. Morning, Don. Or is it Mr. Petronio?
Dom is fine.
Dom. I was wondering if you had any spare rations or morsels around for breakfast.
We don't have much in the way of rations. If you go to the kitchens, I'm sure they still have breakfast. It's a little later than the normal breakfast hour, but I'm sure someone there can help you.
Very good. I am thankful for what I have, even if it's not perfect.
Kajiga told me what you've done to help defend the city, and I am grateful for that. So feel free to take what you like. In fact, I had asked Lukman to bring you all something, a small sign of my thanks. So please make sure you see him. I assume you're setting out on, I don't really know the details of your mission, but I gather it is important.
It's incredibly pressing. Yes, we must head south.
Well,
We'll
if
try.
your intelligence is correct, you should leave as soon as you can. We don't know when the bombardment will begin. Not really. They could start early.
Yeah.
You'll want to be a distance away from the city if you're not going to be within the protection of the sphere.
Right. It seems that we'll want to be distanced anyway for Zarius and Kepler's sake.
Why? I don't exactly understand what you mean, but I am pressed for time at the moment. So when you come back, I will certainly try to make time to honor you more appropriately. But I hope that my gifts do show my gratitude for your efforts.
Many thanks to you. Good luck.
And Kajika has just been, who is there, has just been not looking at you at all.
And the T-hole is also averting his eyes and just ignoring that he exists, and walks back to the rest of the group.
So petty.
Are we all in the same like room?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, this clearly was just some sort of lounge at one point, probably just a space for people to wait in while, while waiting to go into the court. But it doesn't have any particular function. So it seemed like a convenient place for them to put you in case you wanted to rest. As every other space is, like they do have a lot of soldiers that are holed up in this keep.
Okay.
So Aurelia, I'm sure Zarius took one of the couches and Aurelia took a couch, but there's that's it for couches. There are chairs about the place you could have slept in or on the floor, but there were just 2 long couches. That's true. Maybe T-Hole took a couch and Zarius had to fight him over it. I don't know. We could PvP to see what happened.
I mean, T-Hole would have offered to be Little Spoon. At least.
And if there was no comfortable place for Clave, he would have went over close by the wall and just made himself a little nook.
Zarius would have no idea what Little Spoon is.
I imagine T-Hole like trying to explain.
Well, if I got something to show you.
2 in the morning. So you're supposed to put your claw here.
It would be hard to be Big Spoon, what with his tail.
Yeah. It sounds like Dom is sending us a gift of his thanks. Mostly he credited all of us, Bo. I understand it was mostly Clave for the new wall.
At that moment, Clave walks in to the room and says, "What are you talking about, T-Hole?"
The Dom is. I spoke with him briefly to see about food, and he said he was busy, but he's mentioned that he was sending. Is it loot?
Lukeman.
Luke. He's sending Lukeman to give it some token of thanks for. Well, he said our efforts, but really your efforts in building the wall to give them defense.
I'm shocked.
Why are you shocked?
That you didn't take any part of the credit for that.
It
was
didn't
not.
deny it.
Still.
It was not my idea, nor did I. It wasn't even my idea, nor did I play any part in constructing it. So I'm not. I cannot take credit for something I'm not the architect of.
And the door
Well,
creaks open and you see Lukeman, the court wizard, come in. He's carrying a small, it's really just a sheet of cloth that he's kind of folded up into a little bag. Hello. I have been asked to bring you these gifts from the Duke. I must get back to my duties, but I do hope that you find them useful in whatever your mission is.
Thank
And
you,
he
Lukeman.
puts it onto a table and unfolds it. For Clave, we have this magical red cowl. It should be very useful to you. We do not have use for it at the moment. All of these things are things that are simply taking up space, I'm afraid. But I am quite sure you will find all of them have their benefits. And he hands the Clave the cowl. For T-Hole, we have this satchel of darts. When you concentrate on a target, the darts will fly on their own to find the target and potentially kill him. They are powerful and emit a burst of magical force when they do connect with the target. For Zarius, we have these prayer beads were once owned by Bishop Otinus. When he left the city, he left them for us so that we could make use of them if need arose. We have other means of healing, however, and I believe these will be most useful for you. Aurelia, you were a bit of a mystery. The Duke could not think of a gift for you, and nor could I. I see that you're a minstrel of some sort.
What? Keep it down. I'm trying to sleep.
I investigated certain portents and they led me to this. And still in the cloth is just a tiny black ring. I'm not sure why the portents suggested this would be good for you, but I believe that the portents would not have guided me wrong.
Oh, they looks like they have good fashion sense.
Looking
ring,
at it, you could
perfect.
see, yeah, you could see that the ring actually, the face of the ring is that of a cat with two ruby eyes. It looks pretty old and worn. You might not even guess it was magical from the state of it because it looks so worn.
Doesn't bring back like bad memories of being a cat person.
I'm trying to suppress those right now.
There's the other two.
Oh yeah, you definitely gotta watch those beads, Arius.
I do not understand.
It's only you may not know where they have been.
So he explains how these items work. And then takes his leave and walks away.
Oh, very cool.
Now I gotta figure out how to. And now I gotta put this in.
Oh, this is so cool. I'm digging this item.
Yeah, this is really cool.
Is this an attuned item?
No, yours is not, I don't think.
Okay. It didn't say it, but I wasn't gonna assume that.
Hey, you can turn into a tressum just like slobber chops. I guess I gotta make a new magic item in D&D Beyond.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the one thing I dislike about them. It's like their custom item thing is so unintuitive to use.
I've made a few of them at this point. A bit used to it.
I mean, they are just prayer beads, your item in particular. They just have a specific history in this world.
Wait, is that an actual magic item?
Yep. Necklace of
Okay.
prayer beads.
Gotcha. Well, that makes it easy. It's a bonus action there too.
I think so. That may have been me. I don't remember anymore. Yeah, no, it's a bonus action there too.
Yeah, I see it. Yep, I got it.
Also, Kurt, did with the book on the network of teleportation circles and everything, Is that one that Don Petronio is allowing me to keep? Or is that one that I had to return into his library?
No, they would let you keep it.
Okay.
It's not a magical book or anything. It's just
No,
a history book. So they're unlikely to need it. They haven't used them in 100 years.
So I know it says that I have to be wearing them to channel it, but like,
It's not
feel
like,
like-
there's a slot.
right? Yeah,
Just means if someone rips them off of your neck, you won't be able to use them.
well,
But I
depending on the
tend
kind
not
of
even to think about those things. So
so prayer beads, sometimes they're wrapped around my hand,
right.
or something like that.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
figured-
you could tell me how you're wearing them, but basically they just have to be on your person.
So I mean, I figured, what I might do is sort of wrap them around my staff's snakehead, kind of like how my own, holy symbol used to be back in the temple so long ago.
I think that's fine. I mean, I gather from the item that they probably envision that people who are using them are kind of like fiddling with the prayer beads
Right.
as they activate them. But so wrapping around your staff makes it easy to do that.
Yeah.
So you're also able to, I mean, to the extent you wanted to stock up, you're able to get food. There's nothing here that's really in the form of rations. So any food you take from this place is probably going to spoil in the course of like a week. But they do seem to have fairly large stores of food for you to take from. So you can get pretty much whatever you want.
So the question is, do we have a means of carrying that food?
So I mean, to the extent that this food spoils and you have to throw it away, you still have access to Kepri's create food and water spell.
Oh yeah. Which is nice.
And if I wanted to prepare it, I have it too. So
So, it's more just for the next few days, you'll have relatively fresh, flavorful food.
Cram.
interesting. It didn't actually put the heal in there. It did not like cure wounds. I hit that cast on the thing. What does first level do? Did that one. It did that one.
They changed Roll20, and now for a second there, I couldn't read anything on my screen, or at least on my second screen. Because I already had like an artificial dark mode, and now they have their own dark mode. And it just blanks everything out when you use the two together.
Come here.
So as you're ready to leave, it is probably about 11 a.m. It is, given that the city is kind of under this threat of utter destruction, strangely, the weather outside is nearly perfect. It's blue skies with a few clouds. It's the end of summer, but it's not especially hot. It's perhaps 74 degrees-ish. There's a light breeze moving through the city that makes the weather seem almost perfect if it weren't for the circumstances.
as we're getting ready to leave the city, I'm going to cast seeming so that everybody looks a bit different.
So how are you getting out of the city?
Something. Hold on.
Oh.
Oh, it doesn't add it here.
As so far as you know, the city's enveloped by the Imperial Army. One
I think
gate is
that-
open. You don't know about the harbor. There was a harbor, you know, there is a harbor, but you don't know whether or not that's open or not. I mean, you would know, but something like particularly Clave has been here before, since this is where Daggerface left from. The harbor is not like walled off or anything, so the walls end. They extend a little ways into the water, but they otherwise end. So the harbor is open, but probably because the harbor is open, there must be some Imperial ships there to block people who are trying to get out that way.
I can get us out.
What are you thinking? Beyond just going through the front door.
This bead right here. We can fly unseen for 8 hours.
Well, that is a useful trick.
All of us can fly invisible.
Up to 10 willing creatures. I posted it. It's Windwalk.
Oh.
So we do have a choice.
You do have a choice, yes. If you wish to stay, then you pay.
I was thinking of the like the movie The Perfect Storm, where at the end where they all like fly up and they're all like holding hands as they fly through the air. It's like all of us just like holding hands and like ascending into the skies together.
Not quite like that. We
I
become
haven't seen that movie,
gaseous.
but that seems like a tonal shift that would break a person's neck.
we become gaseous in nature. But we can move very fast. 300, our fly speed of 300 feet. Like that's pretty substantial. For 8 hours a day.
How often can you use these prayer beads?
I can use that one once a day.
Now that is a kingly gift for something they just had laying around that nobody could find a good use for as the city's besieged.
Yes. Now do not tell anyone.
But Lukemon couldn't use it, so basically worthless.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, it does require specific attunement. Oh, it always requires attunement. Okay.
Yep.
Do I have a spot?
Now you do.
Does anybody have an open attunement slot?
I am not attuned to anything, I think.
You want to give this to T-Hole though?
Right.
Well, he
This has
can't
to
use
be
it.
right. Only a cleric or paladin or forget who else
Druid.
could use it.
Druid.
Yeah, druid.
What do you have that requires attunement other than your snake staff?
My armor and this iron stone.
Oh yeah, the Unestone.
This one
You have a-
absorbs magic. I will here. I'll just grab it. It's been floating around me this whole time. How did you not notice?
After a
Maybe
while, it just
because it's
becomes
never
part of
come
you.
up.
I've never been hit with a spell. I don't know.
It's like
Seriously?
Yeah, really. Pretty much. I'm attacked, but never hit with a spell, so it's this Iron Stone of Absorption, if you would like to add it to your inventory, because I don't need it.
Shit, I'll take that.
Are you hit with spells?
Uh,
When was the last time you were hit with a spell?
I mean, it's not for that. It's for making sure you don't. So hopefully you never. And certainly never with that.
So yeah, while it's around your head, you can use your reaction to cancel a spell of 4th level or lower cast by a creature you could see and targeting only you. Can cancel up to a total amount of 20 levels. And I don't
Holy
remember.
shit.
Yeah, I don't
Wait,
remember.
Wait, is that
A few of them were
20
used already. 20 like combined levels of spells.
And
So
and then
5
what's it-
4th level spells. It's
and then it's dead.
Yeah, it's
Oh, okay.
absorbed its full amount.
And I think you're right. I'd have to look up. I have to go through my notes again, but I think some of them were used.
There weren't a whole lot, I don't think. Like 3, maybe 4. Trying to see if I can find the item. Maybe it was on the list on the thing. I don't know where it would be. Magic items. Nope, not there.
I actually don't think Clave would want it just because he doesn't want something floating around his head. It's a bit conspicuous for his taste.
It's 1 to 3 feet around your head. Here. It's a pale lavender ellipsoid. That's what that
Well,
looks like.
I've already got one, but but if Aurelia doesn't want it, I will of course take.
Now,
a
what are the
second
chances I get turned into an infant again? Probably slim to none. You can have. 'Cause nobody
that-
targets me with spells.
See, right. That was
You're
not a
usually
spell,
invisible.
so you're,
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
By the way, Tony, I don't know
Yep.
if you noticed this, but you're Ewan.
Oh, indeed. Yeah. Let me do that.
So like T-hole has a Yoon stone of agility that is, been orbiting his head. So he would totally take a second one so he could be like a planet with moons.
Of course.
Because yes, the
He'll
world
just calls dibs on all future Yoon stones for aesthetic purposes.
What's the environment like around the city? Like as far as
It is
it looks like there's a forest to the south.
Festive. It's very
right.
everybody's in a good mood.
There is a very large forest to the south. That is like 100 miles away, though.
Okay.
The immediate area around the city it's mostly hills, but you are next to this pretty substantial mountain that you're headed towards.
Okay.
Well, that sounds like a great way to get out. Certainly better than walking out the front gate and dealing with the army.
Indeed.
Do you think we should try to?
No. We'll draw attention to us.
Sounds like they have warhounds.
I guess I was curious to see if it was worth, since we don't have quite 10 willing participants, seeing if there's anybody that was looking for a last minute out.
I do not care. If you wish. Now, so like the casting time on the actual spell is a minute. Do we feel like I have to follow that still? It's just a bonus action to activate the thing, but like, is it instantaneous? How do we feel about
I'm
this?
pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I will just go. If it creates problems, then I guess it creates.
I guess it doesn't
problems.
really matter. Yeah,
Right. But
it still takes a minute to revert back to normal form.
right. And if you turn into like smoke, you might be able to get away. But if you turn into smoke right in front of people, they're probably going to realize that, like, hey, those wisps of clouds weren't here before. So they might attack you if you get too close to an enemy. And if they think about it. So, but
you
you know, the magic
have
item,
resistance.
right? The magic item says bonus action, so we'll just go with that.
Okay.
I actually didn't read the spell. I just rolled, just rolled to see what the stones did.
Well, that is very convenient that this is a spell that ends up on that list.
Quite handy, yeah. Well, I mean, I only get it once a day, so
Yeah,
this
but
happens to. It's a prime time for it right here, right now.
I mean, do we even need teleportation between your ability to let us move at that speed and my ability to create towns out of nothing that last for 10 days? I mean, we can be traveling in comfort.
If you make a new town later on, does the other one stay?
Yeah,
You're just gonna
10
like
days.
leave a trail of empty villages along the path.
Empty? No, there'll be cardboard cutouts of people.
Sure.
It's like Home Alone. Just like unimportant.
There's this ethereal rocking around the Christmas tree music going playing. Where's that coming from?
Yeah, he could have also had planar ally. I just didn't roll that. That 19 would have been planar ally, but I did get a nat 20 for the windwalk.
Nice. This fucking thing won't focus.
All right. Well, I think T-hole, well, it's a strangely noble idea, which, by the way, are you feeling okay?
T-hole places one of his hands on Clay's right shoulder.
Tony, do you have like a background for every terrain just in case?
I look them up. It's real simple. I don't have like a character picture, so I'm like, where are we at? Here we go. Remember my void one?
Mhm.
T-hole places his hand on Clay's right shoulder and says, "My heart and my mind are open to new possibilities today."
Clay feels very strange at that. Very icky feeling coming from where he's being touched. He doesn't like it. He's like kind of, okay. Anyways, as I was saying, it's a strangely noble position for you to take, T-hole, to recommend seeing if there's anybody that wants to leave, but I unless we pass by some of those people, I think we have to focus on getting out, because we are bound by time. We don't know when this attack is going to come, and suppose that there's more people that want to get out than we could provide for. I mean, then what?
Well, I was thinking we'd just go ask the old Dom, Mr. Petronio, if he knew anybody that was looking to get out, saying we could offer safe passage.
Yeah, you would have gotten the sense that everybody there could be like random citizens who now in the last minutes want to get out somewhere in the city, but everyone who wanted to get out was directed to leave. The people in the keep right now are mostly people who work directly for the Duke. He probably doesn't want them to leave as they're like soldiers.
That's fair. Well, my heart is still open today. Shall we go then? So do I like climb on you, Zarius? Is that how this works?
It will not be necessary.
T-Hole
Let us get
looks a little-
outside.
T-Hole looks a little disappointed.
Who
Everyone
the
must
best-
spoon together.
Who is the one? Who is the one that has knowledge of where this teleportation circle is?
I have a rough idea of where it is.
Then we will follow you. We will not be able to speak during this time.
Well, that's a relief.
All right.
Indeed.
It doesn't mean we can't make weird cloud formations at each other, though.
We follow Axius.
You mean Clave?
Whatever he wishes to be called, I do not care. Let
What's
us
his
get
name?
outside.
What's his name right now?
I go by many names. I'll respond to whatever.
Very then whatever.
Whatever it is.
Let us leave.
Let us leave. All right.
Be easier to go from outside. Let us. Capri.
And you hear in your head, why are we leaving?
The Exarch demands it.
I think we should go and ask him.
Do you know where he is?
No, but we should go and ask him.
I already did.
But it seems like we're just going on the adventure to get to the warm lands, which is what we were doing anyway, which seems suspicious. Let's just
Would I
find the
lead you-
Exarch. And you hear
Would I lead you
the subtle
astray?
flapping of wings.
I cannot leave yet. Then I storm off. I gotta find whatever person might be in charge, or some person of high standing at least.
Yeah, Lukman, you did have a conversation with Lukman about this, and he suggested, although he's not 100% certain about it, that you might need to cast either Dispel Magic or Remove Curse on Kepri.
That's true.
You know, I mean,
I
from
forgot.
at least-
I did forget about that. I probably would have. I need to prepare that
That's fair.
actually.
So
Well, I have
from
Dispel
what
Mag-
you
I do
from
have
what
Dispel
you
Magic, so I
know,
could do
the well, from what you know, well, he wasn't sure which would work. If it is a curse, you would need Remove Curse.
That's fair. Then I guess I'll do both. I'll prepare both. What don't I need? Well, we're not going to be talking, so I'll unprepare tongues. And remove curse. Alrighty, I have it prepared then.
So are you going to try to find Kepri?
Yeah, yeah. I
Where do you want to start?
she can't hide from me.
I mean, she could still be invisible.
Look through her eyes.
So you could tell she is in the throne room.
Yeah, go to the throne room. I mean, tell like where she's at, like in the throne room.
So like when you get to the throne room, you look through her eyes again, and she is now in Lukemon's study.
I will just
Unless you're
continue to
like
watch.
looking through
Yeah.
her eyes and feeling your way, because you can't look through your eyes and her eyes at the same time.
I'll just, no, but if I stand and just watch and wait for her to settle, then
Which she seems to be flitting from room to room. You would guess she's looking for this exarch. She definitely saw the Duke in the courtroom, and she did not stop there.
I'll go to the Duke.
Yes, is there something I can help you with?
I need to know who has the glove.
That's in our vaults at the moment, beneath the keep.
It is driving my companion mad. We need to. She is searching for it, or the one who wields it, or the one who has last wielded it.
I would have been the one to last wield it.
Unless someone is in your vaults.
I suppose that's true, although that would be at least unprecedented to my knowledge. I'll send my son down to retrieve it if you like.
Can I
We
go
need
with
it up
him?
here anyway. I'm afraid no one is allowed in the vaults except for members of my family, direct members of my family.
Will he be accompanied by guards towards
To a
close
certain
to the
point.
vault? Yes.
Yes.
Good. Can I accompany the guards?
Of course.
Very good.
So his son comes out. His son is not exactly a little boy. He is probably about mid 50s. So he is by dwarf standards still kind of young.
Mhm.
But a group of dwarven guards and you go down. He just tells you to wait when you get to a set of enormous steel doors. And he comes up and places his hand on them. They begin to glow, and you hear a soft hum as a giant clang fills the room, and the doors begin to part, not opening into the room, but actually just sliding to the side into the walls. You realize these doors are about 3 feet thick, and the entire surface of them is now glowing green. And as he goes in, they immediately slam shut behind him with enough force that you wonder if they would have killed someone who was directly in his wake. After a minute, he comes back out holding, what appears to be almost just, it is hard to describe. It appears to be like a blob of metal that is just rolling around his hands, almost like it's in a semi-liquid state, but it's not like dripping on the floor or anything.
Okay.
And again, the doors slam shut.
Whenever he went in there, I will have started looking through Kepri's eyes.
Kepri is not down here with you. Kepri is still flitting about the upper rooms of the castle.
Okay. I'll just keep an eye on her. She's just looking around the different rooms still. The same rooms?
There are a lot of rooms, and she doesn't necessarily know what a lot of them are. So when there's a closed door, she doesn't have she could use her claws to try to pry them open, but she seems to be sort of ignoring the rooms with closed doors and going for the path of least resistance. You do see she is occasionally flying out open windows and then flying in other windows. So frequently she's winding up in like small little bedrooms or converted into barracks, but then flying out again because most of those doors are closed. So you do see that eventually she is hitting rooms like a second or third time.
So whenever whenever he comes back out of the vault with the thing, I will sort of like open my eyes and look at him again, and then just reach out to her and say, I have found him.
Where are you?
Near the vaults. We will be coming up.
And you see she is flying back towards the room where the Duke is.
No, just accompanying them upwards, I guess.
So you return up and he turns the glove over. You realize that watching it, that it is a glove. It's just, it looks as if it's made of some sort of liquid metal.
I'm gonna cast magic. As we walk out, and I want to see if that.
Hold on, I'm having an audio problem. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Guess he can't hear us all of a sudden.
Yeah, I can hear again.
Are you sure?
Yay.
Yep. Not sure why that happened. Sorry, what were you doing? I know you were going back up, but you said you were going to try to do something.
I
Oh, you were
cast
going to
detect
cast
magic.
detect magic.
Yeah.
The glove is obviously magical.
Okay. I don't know. I'll focus, see if there's any specific kind of magic.
You are mostly getting conjuration and enchantment magic from it.
That tracks. All right. Yeah, I was making sure that this was the real one.
So he brings it back up to the Duke, who slides it over his hand, giving his hand the look like it is made of liquid metal, or like perhaps he is wearing the skin of a silver dragon. Is there something I could do to help your friend?
Just to command her to stand on my arm.
And he says,
Assuming she's in the room. Can I tell if she's in the room?
yeah, she's in the room.
All right.
Little dragon, please land on Zarius's arm. And she flies down and turns visible and lands on your arm.
And then I cast a spell magic.
The spell magic doesn't work.
Okay. And then I cast remove curse.
So you cast remove curse.
Perfect.
I like how Kurt didn't say that it worked.
Yeah.
There's no obvious sign. Like there's a little shimmery glow around her, but that's what it usually looks like.
And then I looked to Kepri. How are you feeling?
I feel fine. Why were we following this guy?
Let us go. I just walk out the room.
So she turns invisible again and starts flying around you. So you make your way outside, I assume,
Yes.
and cast your spell. So you all turned. Well, I guess you could describe to me what it looks like.
Well, I mean, it's just channeling the energy from the staff. So I'll just, just tell everyone, once we become our gaseous forms, we may be difficult to distinguish one another. Remember that this one, pointing towards Axios, is the one we are following. And then
How do
I
we
just
know?
sort of-
How do we know which one is Axios if we can't tell one another apart?
he will be standing there when I cast the spell. He will be the gaseous form that is there when we are done. When he starts to move, you follow.
Okay.
We can attempt to create signals.
I'm wondering, maybe there's something else.
I mean, it's
No, I don't know how that would work.
well, Axios. Which direction is the which direction do we need to go?
Well, it's in one of the mountains to the north, right? To the north,
Now to the west.
to the west. Okay.
Well,
Yeah. So these
It
in
is.
the Lost
It
Hills.
is. Yeah. Right. It's the mountain that you can actually see in the Lost Hills, with this
Okay.
ring of stone tors above it.
yeah, I as a player knew that, but I didn't know if T-hole
Right.
got where we were going.
Yeah. So I would point that out. In the distance, I would say it's over there. So, I suppose we'll be with this spell, Zarius. Will we be able to actually see each other? Will we have like a clear and distinct form, or do we just look invisible like the wind?
We are gaseous, so I assume we have some form.
It's you look like a cloud according to the spell.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, perhaps with my own innate ability to change and alter myself, perhaps some of that will be retained, and I could make sure that my form is somewhat distinct. I won't know until we try the spell.
Oh, specifically, it says wisps of clouds, so it's not even like separate clouds.
I mean, I think that's reasonable. In the event that it doesn't work, though, if we're just heading straight west to these mountains, we could all reasonably just head to the mountain and then end the spell or curb the effects when we get close enough, and then just hike on foot the rest of the way.
If only we had some ability to read each other's thoughts.
If
That
only.
would be helpful.
If only the wizard had that spell.
Nope, you're not getting in my
Only.
thoughts. and T-hole raises one of his hands and he waggles his finger.
All right. Well, I guess we will have to see how this goes. So once you cast the spells, Zarius, then we'll have to make do with what we have. We all know the general direction that we're heading. Hopefully, at the very least, we can all see each other well enough to stay in a group.
Then gather close.
And also, I mean, if anybody is not sure about who they're following, I mean, if we all know that there's one person that is supposed to be leading the way, and you know it's not you, then that should help to keep us oriented to some degree.
Do not put it past this group to cause chaos.
Yeah, I'm coming to learn that.
And I'll brandish the staff and stamp it into the ground, and then put my hand onto the top of the head, and then just focus for a moment and let the magic sort of flow out and consume everybody, and then your forms just quickly become, instead of over the course of a minute, you're very rapidly eviscerated and turned into a cloud.
There you go. Turns
It
out
was
this is
probably
an
a little
incredibly,
painful.
right, incredibly painful spell.
It's meant to happen over a minute. It happens like that.
Damn you, Thanos.
So you do find, as you put your hand over the top, you do have to grasp a particular speed in the chain of beads. But everyone almost immediately is turned into wisps of cloud,
Okay.
and you take off towards the west. After about half an hour of flying, I guess how high or low do you want to fly? You can see once you're outside the walls of the keep itself, the mountain it looms over the city. You can see it because it rises up. Like the city itself goes down to the base of this lake. The top of that mountain is probably 9,000 or 10,000 feet above the surface of the lake. So although it's the only mountain in the Lost Hills, it is an enormous mountain. So I don't know if you want to fly high because you're going to land on the top of it. The book you have doesn't actually say exactly where the temple is. You are aware that there is an ancient road that leads to it.
Okay.
So you maybe want to just fly somewhere above that road.
Yeah, so I think that, I mean, especially because we're just appearing as wisps of smoke and because we're moving so quickly, I don't think Clay would be so concerned with like trying to avoid people or potential dangers. So it would probably be like, 10, 20 feet off the ground at most. And then just kind of, following whatever landmarks that there may be. Do you want any kind of survival check or anything like that to see?
No, I mean, so while you're within, you basically have to fly over the town walls. But once you're outside, I mean, the road that encircles the city, eventually one part of it does branch off and heads towards the mountain. And you can see that pretty clearly. It breaks up because it hasn't been in use in such a long time. And it becomes sort of rockier and rougher, but it is so gouged into the surface of the land that it's still pretty easy to make out where the road once was. And along the way, you do see there are numerous ruins that are dotted here and there, almost all of which have crumbled to the point where you can't tell what they were. But their presence there is easy to note. When you get to the mountain, you realize the road doesn't go like straight up to the top. It begins to encircle the mountain, and it winds back and forth. So after it takes about half an hour of flying to get, it takes about an hour of flying to get to the base of the mountain. And at this point, if you follow the road, it's just going to take time because the road is winding around.
Yeah, Clave would probably do that just because, rather do that than risk getting lost.
Right.
Also, with us being wisps of cloud and everything, does this mean that we can fit through spaces that wind and air would conceivably be able to fit through, or do we still maintain our basic physical space?
Doesn't say.
Yeah, the spell doesn't say. I would say that there are limits to how much you can squeeze, because you're
Okay.
still trying to keep the sort of wisps within a certain area of each other, so you can't just noodle your way through.
Mhm. Okay.
You also notice,
Um,
because you're flying roughly 20 or 30 feet above the surface of the road, most people just, you fly by and they don't notice at all. Many people do, however, like a few eagle-eyed people along the way, do note the wisps of cloud sort of flying against the breeze towards the mountain. There's not much they could do because they'll notice you and then you're gone again.
mhm.
But apparently it is noticeable from the ground if you're not behaving like a normal cloud.
Crabite from Dunland.
Right.
The road is being watched.
We could basically just like move 600 feet around. So, because we can move and dash, that's all we got.
Right. You know, there are probably a few people who might have thought to like angle cannon in your direction, but it takes too long for them to line the cannon up. The cannon aren't prepared to shoot like up and over and then probably have the cannonball fall on other troops.
Trying
Okay.
to shoot something moving at 300 miles an hour is nothing
Well,
miles an hour, but yeah.
Cannon do have a pretty good range. So they can still try. It would be a tough shot, but they can
They
still
got a good
try.
range, but they don't have a good speed.
Still take half damage from the cannonball. Yeah, no one's able to get off any shots at you. Nobody who noticed you, at least, even really tries.
Okay. So then, yeah, I can't think of anything else that I would be doing.
Right.
All
At the foot of the mountain, you see there are 6 enormous statues. They're probably, the tallest of them is about 300 feet high. The 3 of them are about that height. The other 3, and they sort of alternate, but the other 3 are only about a third as high as that one. They're standing in a circle around the road, and there seems to have once been a plaza of stone at their base, a circular plaza. But the road continues on beyond them, and that's the point when it begins to really climb up the mountain. So flying back and forth around the various twists and turns of the road, you eventually come to a lot more ruins. They're much more intact than the ruins along the road to get here, but still essentially not useful as buildings. The roofs are completely gone. It's just remnants of walls and grass is growing where the floors probably once stood. Near the top of the mountain, a good distance of flying around later, you do come across something, a half collapsed building that it was described as a temple, and this does sort of look like a temple. But you're not entirely, it is essentially just a circular building that was once completely enveloped in columns and probably had an enormous dome over the top of it. But that has mostly crumbled in at this point, and there are only a few sections where just parts of the dome remain.
So this looks like the best candidate.
Yes. I mean, there are other buildings nearby. You might also go check out those ruins, but the road seems to come specifically up to this point. And there's not that many other buildings in the area.
Okay.
This matches the description of the temple in the books more than anything else you can see.
Okay. So what Clay would do would he would take one more kind of spin around the local area just to make sure if there's any creatures or any individuals that might be around that could be spotted.
So outside the building, you don't see anything. Inside the building, you do see there are metal obelisks that are set into the wall that look like they could be doorways. They don't have handles or anything like that, so you're not sure how they would open, but they're sort of obviously metal slabs built into the wall. So it looks like it probably could open.
Okay. So then, at the foot of the building, Axius would then begin the process of returning to a corporeal form.
If he starts to do that, then I'll do the same.
So can everybody turn back individually?
Yes. All you could do, your only actions are dash or revert back. So an individual
And during
can
the
revert back
8
at any point.
hours, and during the 8 hours, we can also choose to revert back to wind form.
Mhm.
Nice.
I mean, it takes a minute, so it's not a
Instant.
get out of jail free card, but it is still pretty nice that the spell doesn't just immediately end.
Indeed. Such a good spell.
T-hole.
Okay, I didn't read that line. With that line in there, I would say it probably does take a minute to change into cloud form rather than a bonus action. Like
Indeed.
you could cast the spell as a bonus action, but then it takes everybody a minute to change into cloud form.
To become the cloud, yeah. That's fair.
So two of, or at least Clave is turning back. Is anyone else?
I said I was, so yeah.
Yeah, T will coalesce into a corporeal form.
I mean, I guess this appears to be the thing. I'll take a quick once around the whole place to see if there's like a holes or windows, a way to look inside.
So mostly there's not so much windows. What there are doorways that lead to where these columns used to support the dome. A number of the columns have fallen over the course of the years, but about 2/3 of them are still in place and intact. Does anyone here speak Itaran?
I
I don't even know what that language option is.
Possibly. Let's see. I speak a shit ton of languages.
Damn. Old T-hole.
Old T-hole did, I know.
Spoke Itarans, but new T-hole doesn't.
Is there any resemblance to Draconic or Goblin?
No.
Yeah, well, then I got nothing for you guys.
I do not speak Ataran.
Right. T-hole, you would notice that although almost everything here is worn away, you do occasionally see little bits of text in the wall that look as if it's in the script of giants, and you can still, although you can't read it anymore, recognize that the language appears to be Itaran. But you don't see any creatures or anything like that. So you do see these doorways that lead in and out. Otherwise, the walls are still sort of partially supporting the dome itself as well. And it doesn't seem like there were, once upon a time, there was probably like a central hole in the dome that light could come through. But now most of the dome is gone. So sunlight is still pouring in. It only took you at most an hour to get here. At most 2 hours to get here, an hour from the base of the mountain. So it is still about early afternoon, 1:30 p.m.
Okay. So once we revert, Clay would say, all right, so just in case I didn't mention it before, wherever this teleportation circle is said to be, there's some kind of metal guardian that is potentially still operating. I don't know if it's a golem or some other kind of creation. Hopefully not so large as those copper snakes we encountered earlier, but it is important to be on your guard as we enter into this place.
I wonder if that's what these markings are talking about. This is some form of Itaran, but I can't read it.
Markings. Do
Yeah,
they look
he-
significant?
Mostly it's faded. These probably aren't even full words he's looking at, or it's like one word and half of the next one. You can't tell from looking at them. I mean, they're, several inches high each. but you're not sure if they mean anything useful.
I was just trying to figure out if it was worth ritually casting comprehend languages.
You could do that while I prepare and cast ability to detect magic.
Okay. Well, I mean, if we're gonna be sitting around twiddling our thumbs anyways, I might as well do something. So, yeah, Clave would then start mentally summoning the magic to comprehend the words that he sees before him.
And I'll do the same for detecting magic.
Okay, so you both cast those spells. Is anyone else doing anything? Did Aurelia change back from cloud form, or is she still a cloud?
Yeah, I would change back once I saw everybody else do it. I just paused for a second so I could get a moment of peace, and then I'll turn back.
Yeah, Nala will say is still in cloud form. This is the new mallet space. Oh, I so wanted to help you guys. It's too bad it takes a minute to get out of cloud form. So you both cast those spells. You realize that the words that are inscribed on the wall, maybe they were useful once, but they seem sort of random now. Some of them are probably proper names and so are essentially meaningless. You do see the word dragon. You see the words like city of, but you're not able to pick up much of anything. It does seem from the overall gist of the words that this was some sort of transportation hub, as many of the words talk about movement and transport.
Okay. So I would let everybody know it seems like this is probably the right place. Most of this is just indecipherable because it's incomplete or faded, but there's enough here to suggest that this is the spot we're looking for.
Well, that's a relief. Oh. Do you know how to activate these circles? Did the book you read contain any indication?
The book provides some information on activating the circles, but it depends on if the teleportation circle is even still intact. I mean, based on the condition of the place, it's kind of a 50-50 shot. So keep your fingers crossed.
I don't know. This place has a kind of a vintage feel to it. I think I think there's a good chance.
Well, I suppose we'll see. Zarius, are you detecting any major sources of magic in the area?
I define question.
In fact, you are detecting magic from almost everything in here. There is now grass growing along the floors in here, and that is pretty much that, and the soil it's growing in is pretty much the only thing that isn't detecting as magic. The walls of the room and the dome all detect as alteration magic. Certain segments of the room detect as conjuration magic.
I'll start pointing all that out.
Okay, so
They're
that further
surrounded.
confirms this is probably the right place.
Teleportation would be conjuration. Yes.
Yeah, that's typically the school of magic it's associated with. I'm interested by the alteration magic though in the stone. I'm wondering if it was perhaps
Enhancement.
perhaps, but well, I don't know. Just everybody keep careful, keep an eye on, keep both eyes on a swivel.
Indeed.
So everyone can make me an investigation check if you're looking around.
I'm not very good at that.
Oh yeah.
So one thing you would note, Zarius, is when you're looking at the areas with the conjuration magic, you do notice some of them do have what appear to be sigils that were once carved into stone circles. A lot of them are broken, and sections of them are worn away. But you also detect with each of them, underneath in the ground beneath them, there is some evocation magic. But it's definitely not coming from the surface, not from the stones themselves, but from something beneath the stones.
Okay.
And it's much fainter than the conjuration magic. And as you're looking around for about a minute, you see one of this metal plinths that's built into the wall begins to shimmer, almost like water. And a humanoid being made of metal, standing about 8 feet tall, steps through the shimmering surface of the metal and immediately says,
Delano Tremius Vai Gotopolai.
of which only Clave can understand him saying, "Greetings."
I am Temple One.
Hello. Can you understand? And then Axius would go through the greetings in the different languages that he knows, which includes Common, Dwarven, Elvish, Frenish, Goblin, Halfling, High Imperial, and Imperiana.
So
anything.
it immediately becomes clear, because you can understand him, that he can't understand you, but he asks you to keep talking, particularly in Elvish or any other racial language, as those he can pick up individual words in.
Okay. So I would then choose Elvish and basically start asking or saying, we are looking to use the teleportation circle. Is it still functioning? And kind of continuing to try and find other ways of saying that in various states of complexity, from simple to more elaborate.
The creature turns and walks back through the shimmering metal, and a moment later comes back out again, this time wearing on its head a bright silver looking helmet.
This should facilitate communications. Can I help you? Are you here to use the circles?
Yes, that is what we are looking to do.
The circles have been inactive for quite some time. Which destination or which circle were you looking to use?
The one that will get us to Il-Shabazz.
He begins to look around the room, and then comes over, eventually coming to a spot that is completely covered by bits of what was once the dome.
The circle you're looking for is here. None of the circles are currently powered, however. The power source will have to be repaired in order for you to use the circles.
Do you have any means of, or do you happen to know what we would need in order to power the circles?
I cannot say precisely. The power source is deep below us in a chamber at the bottom, at the base of the mountain. I can give you access to the service tunnels, although my understanding is that the lower levels are flooded. Do you have the ability to breathe water?
I do not have that ability. And then I would turn to Zarius, or Aurelia. Do either of you have magic that would allow us to breathe in water?
I do not.
Nope.
No, and then I would turn to the Guardian. We do not have the ability to breathe in water.
And I'm not sure how you can activate these circles.
What level of flooding is there?
Unclear.
Well, I may be able to use that spell that I tried earlier that helped us travel along the river. It might, at the very least, allow us to pass through the water. Guardian, or what? How should I refer to you?
Temple 1.
Temple 1. Would you be able to accompany us?
I am not permitted to leave the circles.
Okay. By what means would you grant us access if you're not able to accompany us?
While most of the passages to the base of the mountain are now blocked, the service tunnel is still open.
Okay. Is there anything that we should know about those areas beneath the mountain other than the fact that it is flooded?
Unclear. I am not certain to what extent even the power source room is still intact. It is possible that it has suffered partial collapse. There have been many earthquakes over the 1400 years since I have left the circles.
Are there any circles that are currently functioning?
Negative.
Okay.
I can tell that there is a power from below, but it is slight, diminished. Perhaps it is just being blocked.
Wait, you're seeing a power source below our feet?
There is some type of evocation magic being from below the circles. I could tell from the crack in one of them.
I mean, you're saying that it's faint, but if it is strong enough to be seen through that much material, I mean, it has to be immensely powerful. So Temple 1, is there anything that you can tell us about the mechanism or the mechanics around the power source?
Power source is an arcane circle at the base of the mountain. If the sigils were correctly redrawn or whatever is obstructing them was removed, the power should again flow. Some of the circles have been destroyed over the years, although it appears as though this one, although covered, remained intact. There were occasional travelers that would come through, suggesting that the power source on the opposite end is still functioning.
Temple 1, you seem to be functioning well for a guardian that you mentioned service of over 1400 years of observation. How is it that you are still functioning?
I have been in operation for 4,000 years.
Have I met you before?
So you really wouldn't understand anything he's saying.
I do, because T-Hole does have Monk, Tongue of the Sun and the Moon.
Okay.
I just can't read anything, but if they're talking, I can hear them and they can understand me.
Okay. Oh, they can understand you too?
Yeah.
That's useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do not recall ever seeing you before. But my power source does not wear out. In fact, I suspect it is damage, not a lack of power, that is preventing the circles from working.
What is the power source?
An arcane circle at the base of the mountain.
Hmm.
Temple One, do you mind if I ask what are you?
I am an Itaran construct.
So in your 4,000 years of service, when is the last time that you saw anybody attempt to use these circles?
I have not seen anyone in this room attempting to use the circles in probably more than a century. The number of years is difficult to judge, as I have spent many years inactive. It is only the spells that you have been casting that caught my notice and caused me to come out again. I have seen and sensed people coming through the circle from the opposite end, from Il Shabazz, is, I believe, the way you designate it. Again, suggesting that their power source may still be active. The last time that happened was within possibly about 10 years ago.
And Temple One, what is your role here?
I am a general guide here. To the extent that people need assistance, I am here to provide it. I am also here to conduct repairs. However, I lack the means and materials to actually repair this building. It used to be that the spells were enough that I could simply cast spells that would fix the cracks. But once the roof collapsed, that ability of mine seems to have faltered. I am no longer at full functionality myself due to the many millennia that have passed since the building started to lose its structural integrity. I am the last functioning unit here.
Well, you are getting old.
And that shimmering space that you emerged from, what is that?
It is simply a holding room, a place for me to rest, protected from the ravages of time.
You are fascinating creation.
Can anyone go in there? I can't understand, so I can't ask that.
I don't know that Axios would ask that. He's more just enamored by the fact that this thing is 4,000 years old and functioning as well as it is. And then, Kurt, has Clave heard of the Itaran people before?
You would definitely have heard of them. And it probably, well, make me an investigation check again. So seeing this now and realizing that this construct is Itaran, you realize that when you were told that the city is Istari, that is probably like a corruption on a corruption of Itaran. And so the city itself, you're not aware of Itarans having kingdoms, and this was referred to as the kingdom of the Istari. So you're not exactly sure what's going on in terms of like legend and history, but the Itarans were essentially a group of wizards that are kind of well known mostly for conducting often torturous or macabre magical experiments. Who were really just dedicated to expanding their knowledge of magic in any way possible. And they didn't so much care who got hurt in the process. And now some of that is also probably legend as well. But a lot of people remember the Itarans as these sort of terrible, mad scientists who would just torture whole populations to invent new spells. It's rumored that a lot of the spells that are known today were invented by them.
Okay. So, thinking about this, Clave would ask, Temple One, as a guide, do you have any texts that might be helpful in the in solving the issues with the power source?
I can provide you with a detailed diagram of the way the sigil should look. However, no texts have survived to the current age.
That is truly unfortunate. Yes, if you could provide a diagram, that would be greatly appreciated.
And you begin to hear there is a sort of buzzing and whirring coming from Temple 1. And you see the back, his entire back begins to sort of open up. And a much slighter Warforged steps out. He was 7 feet tall, but you realize that he was wearing something akin to an exoskeleton. The Warforged that steps out is only about 5 feet tall and is very, very much thinner, but also looks to be a great deal more dexterous. And he begins to look around and eventually locates a section of just flat slate and picks up a nearby rock and begins to draw on this flat piece of what was formerly the roof a model of what the sigil should look like.
While he's doing that, Clave would fill Zarius and Aurelia in on everything that was being discussed. So, yeah, Zarius, Aurelia, this is a guide from 4,000 years ago created by the Itarans.
Interesting.
And apparently there's a power source that needs to be corrected in order to use the teleportation circles here. It does sound like that there's others as well, though not all of them are functioning. So if there were other places that might be easier for us to travel by outside of Il-Shabazz, it might be worth considering.
The creature stands up at that point and looks down and says,
Insufficiently detailed.
and he walks over and begins to move other sections of the roof. Although he seems to be struggling as he's not really built for strength.
If you could assist me, I need to obtain one of the items from the person buried underneath here.
Oh, okay. Clave isn't that strong, but he would do his best to help.
As you begin to
And-
lift up the sections of the roof, you do see there is you see the ends of a skeleton underneath. It doesn't appear as though it was human. It's not really clear to you what sort of creature it was. But the head
Does
is
he-
very much oblong, almost pointed, almost triangular. The skull having barely survived being smashed, most of the skeleton is cracked and broken.
Does he need help to move these things?
Oh, I'm sure they look
Yeah.
like they're struggling. Like they're
Yeah.
basically just levering them up, not lifting them and throwing them aside.
And-
Zarius, Seahole, Aurelia, a little help.
Nala wishes she could help, but she's in cloud form.
Yeah. So pretty much just me.
T-hole
So-
will help too.
So you don't have to clear that much before eventually you come across just a scattering of objects, but the Temple One reaches down and picks up something that you realize it's just chalk. It's just a piece of chalk is all he was really going for. And he then returns back to this flat slab of stone he was drawing on and begins to draw in chalk. And admittedly, it is much clearer than the very faint lines he was drawing previously.
Temple One, who or what was that creature that was smashed beneath the rubble?
Yeah, do I recognize it?
You probably would, but give me a medicine check.
I could do that. I can even do it from here. That's pretty high.
Yeah. You're 100% sure that is a Coatella.
Oh,
The triangular looking fish face is a dead giveaway.
That is a fish head.
Right? Why the Koatoa? Why there was a Koatoa at the top of a mountain? You don't know.
Those strange, yes, those strange years on a mountain.
But if you ask, he informs you that it was a Koatoa.
Did you know this Koatoa, Temple One?
No, but several of his kind came into the temple.
How long ago?
It was approximately 400 years.
Do you know what they were seeking?
They were seeking the secrets of how to use the circles, although the circles are usually easy to use if powered. At the time, several circles were still functioning. Some of the Koatoa went through. They did not return.
How is the locations of these circles? How is that planned? Did this touch different parts of the Itaran Empire?
The Itarans were not an empire. The Itarans did, however, have many outposts. The outposts were not planned in a strict sense. They were set up where convenient from time to time. Circles were often established between any two outposts that were set up and established over longer periods of time in order to facilitate researchers moving from one location to another. This site served mostly as a hub. All of the Itaran outposts that had circles had circles that led here, and from here you could access other circles.
Temple One, are there any circles currently functioning that lead to Itaran outposts?
None of the circles in this hub are functioning.
What, if the power source were to be addressed, are any of the circles, would any of the other circles be able to transport to one of these hubs or to one of these outposts?
The Il-Shabazz circle was functioning as recently as 100 years ago. The other ones had all failed at that point in time.
Okay.
Because there was no power to the other ones, I have not assessed what would be needed to repair them. If the power source is repaired, however, I will begin a reassessment and decide whether or not they are salvageable in their current form. It would have to be that both the circle here and the circle at the receiving end were functioning.
Okay. So Clay would relay that to others and say, imagine the amount of power, the tools that we could uncover if we could travel to one of these Itaran outposts. I mean, they have this guy that has been functioning for 4,000 years. The kind of magic that must be able to achieve such a feat is just unthinkable.
The Itarans were... Sorry, go on.
It's not that impressive. Look how crappy this place is. He hasn't picked anything up and he decides to do it when we show up. What's he been doing this whole time?
Well, seems like he just hasn't had the criteria met for him to be activated, I guess. He said that the only reason he came out is because in response to the magic that me and Zarius had used in trying to figure out, get our bearings.
I don't think putting power, at least turning the power source is a good idea because that means anybody can use it. Is there any way we could power this thing one time and use it?
I mean, I guess we need to look at the power source first.
Illustration complete. This is what the sigil must look like to restore power to this temple.
Clave will take it in. He'll do a light sketch on some of his papers as well, but he doesn't really need it. He's got keen mind.
And give me an Arcana check.
Okay.
Nice.
So you're not exactly sure what this power source, how exactly this power source functions based on the sigil. You can see that there is a connection to some other plane. So it's probably drawing power from some other plane of existence. But beyond that, you can't really make out like what plane specifically.
That makes Clave even more impressed, and he says, "Guys, these Itarans, not only were they capable of creating all of this, but they're powering their magic by siphoning the energy off of other planes."
It sounds a lot like what that one guy did in Malik's Keep.
Malachar?
Malachar.
Or-
Yeah. In Malakar's Keep.
Clave wasn't there for that though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, T-Hole's bringing that up for Azarius and Aurelia.
I'm trying to remember Malakar's Keep. Oh, yeah. Back in the void.
Yep. Yeah, Clay probably would have been pretty impressed with that too, since it was, he had to shear off the top of a mountain and then build a bubble of reality in the void.
Right.
Wow. The things that you guys have done. Experience.
Accessing the power generation room will still require, most likely, water breathing abilities. Would you like me to show you to the service tunnel? You can at least assess how much water you will have to pass through.
That would be lovely.
Yeah. If you can lead the way, Temple One. Aurelia, Zarius, he's gonna lead us to where we need to start off to find the power source.
So he walks through the shimmering wall of metal and goes through it.
Okay. If he said follow, Clave is gonna kind of take a breath and then step through.
So you step through, you can't see anything because it is essentially like liquid metal around you. So there's no visibility whatsoever. But pressing through after about 10 feet, you do come into a brightly lit room. There's no way that this could be physically attached to the temple. You must be in some sort of extra dimensional space.
It's larger on the inside. I got it.
Right. Or it's just a different location entirely. And somehow this didn't require the same sort of power as anything else. Your best guess is it is an extra dimensional space at the end of the tunnel you came through. So are other people going through?
Yep.
If it appears you could just walk through the wall.
It appears you could. You do quickly realize like you have to keep going because you also can't breathe. In addition to not being able to see, there's no air when you're passing through the liquid metal.
So good thing I held my breath. I took a breath before I stepped through.
But I mean, it's just 10 feet, so it's not really any harm if you move through quickly. Nala, however, now has to take physical form again because I at least rule that as wisps of cloud, you can't penetrate the liquid.
Right.
But a minute later, Nala comes in. Temple One leads you to a wall, and then the wall just appears to just part in front of you. Not so much a door, just that the stone of the wall has reshaped itself to create a doorway. in which you see a relatively narrow, it's perhaps 10 feet across, stone staircase that spirals down.
Mhm. Is there anything else of interest in this space?
There is inside the space itself. The only other thing you see is that there is an inclined table that has indentions on it that would that appear to fit this smaller form of Temple One. There is also an alcove where you would imagine that the larger suit he was wearing when he initially came out was kept, and several shelves on the walls that have various implements on them. Zarius, you're still detecting magic essentially everywhere. Most of the items on the shelves are enchantment magic.
Okay.
What do the items on the shelves look like?
They appear to be tools, although they're not like tools that you can easily identify. You're not sure what they do just from looking at them.
I would probably ask Temple One. Temple One, what are those things at the shelves?
And he proceeds to explain to you the functions of the various tools. They all seem to relate to the maintenance of the temple and to the maintenance of the teleportation circles themselves. Like these would allow you to, one of the tools would allow you to recarve the sigils in the stone pads outside. Some of them allow you to fix cracks, essentially like a sort of broad spectrum kind of mending. Some of them allow him to levitate. The helmet on his head is there so that he can understand any language of anyone who comes in case someone needs to use the things, but he doesn't innately know their language, as he mostly just speaks Itaran.
Temple One, will we require the use of any of these tools in order to fix the power source?
You may require
the sigil carving tool. However, I am not sure the extent of the damage. I can lend you my tools if you think they will be helpful. You could also come back and describe the damage to me, in which case I could give you the specific tools and train you on their use.
Okay. I think that we can, I mean, if we can actually get down there, there's no reason why we wouldn't be able to come back to provide an assessment. I think with your instruction, that would probably have the greatest outcome for success. So moving forward, there's that staircase you said, right?
right.
Is Temple One coming down with us to the through the staircase, or is he staying here in this room?
He's staying here.
Okay. And looking down from the staircase, do we see the water immediately?
You do not see any water. The staircase, actually, this whole room, I should have mentioned, I just forgot, is pitch black. Temple One, there's no light source in this room. So Clave can see. If Aurelia is wearing her new ring, she can see.
I got a light cantrip that I can use. So
Don't you also have an ever burning?
I do have the
that
torch
you
too. I mean, yeah. If it, yeah.
So, but the stairwell is equally pitch black. But looking down with dark vision, you know, at 60 feet, you only see darkness below you. You don't see water.
made? Okay.
That said, even the air where you are now is pretty thin. You are about 9,000 feet above sea level.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well,
So the lake, or rather, the lake is 9,000 feet below you. So you're even more than that above sea level.
Mhm.
But assuming water has somehow leaked in, it's probably at the level of the lake.
I mean, we're almost 2 miles up.
Right.
all right, well, I guess let's take a minute to turn into air and go down there pretty quick, right?
And Nala finally comes in.
Well, Clave,
So like what's the, is it like is there like a shaft or?
It is a shaft, but there is a spiral staircase made of stone. Now, from the way the wall opened, you're not sure if the staircase was there or if it formed when the wall opened, because clearly the stone at the doorway morphed into an opening. But it is just a shaft that is currently shaped into the form of a spiral staircase.
Is there like a space to drop something?
Not there is like a central hole, but it's pretty small. It's only about 3 inches across. So you could drop something down that.
Well, I mean, whatever you drop down is likely to,
Hit something else along the way. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that didn't help me. I was hoping to see if we could just determine what dropping something down there, but
well, Clave is his curiosity is greater than his sense of self-preservation right now, so he's gonna start heading down.
I'll just like before. Are there any protections or guardians of this circle down below?
There were protections once upon a time. I do not know whether or not any of them survive. Very likely they have failed.
I'll look to Axios. Does that that helmet translate for him?
Wait, oh,
No,
so,
his helmet does not translate.
Yeah, so I have no idea what he just said.
oh, yeah, so I would let Zarius know. He says that there's some potential guardians down there, but he doesn't believe they're still functioning. But that is
It's
a good
not our
question.
luck.
Temple One, if any of the guardians are still functioning, is there any way that we could make sure that we're designated as non-hostile, or so that they don't attack us?
Unclear. You do not have any of the trappings of the Itarans.
What trappings would these guardians look for?
The exact specifications of the guide stones that the Itarans used to bypass the security are unknown to me, but they did wear badges that would allow them to bypass security. Depending on the level of the badge you had, you could pass certain security measures and potentially not others. However, there are no such badges in the vicinity that I am aware of.
Are the badges, do they operate off of magical identification, or is it just the general shape and style of the badge?
That is not known to me.
Do you happen to have any images, or can you use your chalk to draw what these badges might look like?
I can attempt to recreate the badges. However, if there's a magical nature to them, and there was to most Itaran technology, I will not be able to describe it.
That's fine. Well, we're kind of making this up as we're going along, so.
So he proceeds to draw some of the badges.
Mhm. Does he indicate which style was the most senior or highest ranking, or?
Yeah, he's not really familiar with what they specifically meant.
Okay.
He gives you sort of a description, but it doesn't seem as though it was like a strict hierarchy. It was just more certain people are expert at different things, and so their badges signified something different.
Okay. So what Clave is going to do is he's going to use his glamored clothing to just create a whole string of badges across his chest in every single style described by Temple One, And then say, we have our bases covered. If they're just going off of sight, then hopefully this is good enough.
Would they only let you through?
Well, with that, I would use an action to change the seeming spell so that everybody else has a similar badge or chest full of badges.
T-Hole is appreciative of the flare that he just got.
I'm curious if T-Hole recognizes these badges. Was this a thing for him?
Make me a history check, Teal.
History check.
Nope.
Man,
It's not.
I've never
Section.
seen badges in my life.
This life.
In the memories that I have.
So are you walking down the stairs or turning to smoke? And does seeming come back automatically when you change back from smoke into person? Or
Well, interesting. Because seeming
does the
also
smoke look like the person? The illusion?
We're just
Dear
just
Wizards
like
of the Coast, I need to know how these two spells interact.
we're T-posed. We're just like T-posed characters
Yeah.
flying through the air 300 feet a second.
Isn't that like Red Dead Redemption 2 where that was a thing?
It was cyberpunk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just because it amuses me, I'm going to say the illusion actually stays. Your seeming stays on top of the wisps of cloud.
Excellent.
Well, that would have made those people
Yeah.
look real weird. Look at us real weird on our travels here. When did you cast the seeming again? Before we
Before
left,
you
right?
cast the
Yeah.
before you cast the Windwalk.
But this will give you an easy way to tell who's who.
Yep. I guess before Clave reverted to wind, he'd at least try to go down the stairs and see like how much there is, and if it was like 2 miles worth of stairs, yeah, eventually he would be like,
Right. So like I said, you can't see too far down. But after walking for a couple minutes, it doesn't seem like there's an end to this.
yeah. Clave is not the most durable, so he's probably breathing pretty hard, and he's gonna be like, all right, enough of
I mean,
this."
think about Zarius's poor fucking knee.
Yeah. Clave is a pussy
After
compared to
2 miles of
Zarius.
stairs.
We weren't doing 2 miles of stairs. I'd have transformed before then.
All right,
Yeah,
let's take a 5-minute break. I mean,
All right.
you do realize it is about 2 miles worth of stairs going down.
Thank God for Windwalk. Can you imagine otherwise? Having to walk our asses
And
all the
you
way
get-
up this mountain.
Right. You get
Just to climb
Yeah.
down.
and then you get halfway down the stairs before you realize, wait, Temple One wants us to come fucking back to describe things to him. So you fly down this staircase, winding around. It is remarkably deep. You do at certain points, about the halfway point, and then maybe another, maybe 3/4 of the way down, you pass by what looked like they were doorways, but they are completely collapsed, almost pancaked in. And there's, even in air form, no way to get through the gaps that remain. But it appears as though the entire structure around these passageways collapsed. When you get to the bottom, or at least to around where you imagine the base of the mountain would be, you begin to hear a bleeding like a goat in pain. It's still a ways down the stairwell though.
I guess he'll. Does it sound like? Does it like we just keep going? It just sounds like it's.
It's still pretty distant. I'm just noting that as you're flying, you can hear this sound.
Yeah, that's disturbing, unnerving.
So T-hole would be.
Actually, I just thought of another problem. Most of you presumably are flying blind because it doesn't say you have special darkness, see-through perception as wind.
Doesn't say it takes away our senses.
Right, I would agree with that. But those of you who don't have dark vision,
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
fair.
imagine you're carrying
Yeah.
your torch as you fly down.
Oh yeah, that's awkward.
But you all hear perfectly well the sound of what may be a dying goat. You're not really sure.
So somebody, it doesn't say we can't hold anything. So maybe we'd like hand off, just to like tell our android buddy, hey, hold this torch for me right quick. take a minute to transform and I grab it from him again.
Pretty sure you can't just take objects with you as wisps of cloud.
It doesn't say I can't hold anything.
Doesn't say, I think it is implied in wisps of cloud. You can hold anything that you could with like a strength of less than 1.
The
Strength
Nimbus
0.
cloud. The Nimbus cloud could carry
Oh.
Goku around.
I have it. Zarius, do you have the light cantrip?
Yeah.
Just before you turn into a cloud, cast light on somebody.
That's a lit up cloud.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sweet.
I'll allow that. That works.
Fine. How long are we going down?
I mean, at
The
100,
light,
at
that light will
100
fade
miles
at
an
a-
hour, right? Like just a couple of minutes.
Okay, cool. Well, that's handy.
Yeah, man, it's gotta be such a trip.
But yeah, I'm not assuming that you stopped just because you heard this goat-like sound. I'm just letting you know so you can tell me what you want to do in response to it. You can't
Well,
see anything that far away. It could still be like 200 feet down, but it's just loud and it reverberates in this passageway.
And as far as we can tell, because obviously echoes and reverberations and everything, as far as we can tell, it's coming from below us.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it definitely, so you would have like sort of faintly heard it. Like it's definitely getting louder as you get deeper.
Okay.
So it's got to be ahead of you somewhere.
I guess Teal's just gonna like be a little extra cautious and like kind of a little bit keenly aware of what's going on, but would still continue the course rather unperturbed.
But sure, you also can't communicate. So everybody individually decide what you want to do.
Yeah.
He
Make
always
school
pressing
signals
forward.
at each other.
Yeah, I'm gonna just press forward as well.
So eventually you do pass a goat that appears to be dying on the steps. It appears to be half charred. Its back end is partially burned away. Its one leg is next to useless, but it is just screaming up a storm as it dies.
Don't get down here. How did it get charred? I say to myself and nobody else.
So I assume you leave the goat behind.
In our form, can we examine it at all?
Sure, you can look at it. But it just looks like it's been burned. Like it's basically the back quarter of it looks like it's been burned.
Okay.
But like the leg especially very badly.
And it's on the stairs.
It is on the stairs. You can see there is a trail of blood leading down the stairs.
So
Right.
it's climbed up to this point.
Right.
So when it looks burnt, you said it looks burned.
Yes.
Does it look like so? Does there fur missing?
Yes.
Does it look like there are like any particular markings, like handprints or brands or?
No, you don't see anything like that.
Gotcha. It's just like burned fur. Okay.
So, and I would say you realize that you really can't, like, you're not, it's definitely not hot enough to cause you damage, but you're really not sensing temperature normally in this form. So you can't, maybe you're like approaching an inferno, although there's supposed to be water down here. You don't know what happened.
Yeah.
You're muted.
Whatever.
I-
Whatever.
I'm-
Yeah.
I was wondering with T-Hole's tongue of the sun and moon, does he understand what the goat is yelling?
I mean, it's not yelling in goat,
Yeah.
the language.
Doesn't have there is no such thing as a goat language. Yeah.
Right. And if I'll say, I will give you this much. If you could speak the goat language, it's saying, "Ah!"
I think we can make some inferences. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's in that much pain and if it's like that, I think Clave would take the time to reconstitute himself to try to comfort the goat a little bit and put it out of its misery.
Okay. What are the
in
rest
as
of you
humane
doing?
a way as possible.
Because that's going to take him a minute. And he can't
2
tell you that
minutes.
that's right. He can't tell you that's his plan.
I mean,
Well, like we would, if we waited, we would see Axios like starting to coalesce, right?
Well, I mean, no, not really, because you're all kind of in a group, and at least not potentially. You're all in a group moving at 100 miles an hour, and Clave has decided to stop. And it's pretty dark. I don't, which one of you got the light cast on him? Then you might notice. If it was Clave, your light source stopped moving.
I thought it was Clave. Yeah, that's what I imagined.
So you realize after a couple seconds that you have blown way, way past him, unless anybody else was also stopping, and that your light source is behind you. Now, Aurelia can see in the dark.
I cannot.
So you realize that Clave has stopped.
Guess just stop and turn around and see what he's doing.
He's apparently reforming into a physical
Okay.
body. His form is slowly un-T-posing.
Then yeah, I mean, then we know that he stopped, right?
Right. And you can also see that Nala seems to be reforming as well.
But if it's dark and the only source of light we had, except for Aurelia, who has dark vision, was gone, so she would be able to see it, but Aurelia wouldn't be able to communicate that to Zarius or T-Hole.
Right. Well, I mean, you can all see Clave, and Nala's near Clave. So you could see them in the light. Although, like I said, you would have sort of blown past them just because of the speed you were at. But when you realized it was pitch blackness again, you could have just turned around to see what happened.
That's fair. So I guess I'll just head back. T-Hole's not going to reform, though. He's just going to kind of like impatiently hover around the goat.
So Clave, you reform your body. Or what's Zarius doing? and Aurelia?
I don't know.
I'm not reforming. I'm just watching.
Yeah, wait.
So Clave reforms and Nala reforms. Nala rubs her hands together for all this roast goat that they're about to have.
Yep.
And Clave puts the goat out of its misery. And Nala then hoists the body of the goat over her shoulder and begins to turn back into mist.
Yeah, actually, if Nala was there and reformed, I would probably ask her to do it since she's much stronger and probably could get a more clean, humane strike. At least I hope she would do that.
Right. Yeah, she will do that. You realize the instant like you are back in your own body, it is extremely humid and very, very warm. It is probably 120 degrees.
Oh, wow.
And 100% humidity.
So, noticing that, I wouldn't transform back to mist. I would let everybody know. Guys, it is getting very hot and humid the further we go down. There may be a reason this goat got charred. I think we need to be very careful, especially since it seems like we're not feeling everything we normally would in our mist form. I say hoping they can hear me.
Yeah, you can all hear him.
I
Can't
You
say
can't
anything,
respond.
but yeah.
So transforming back into mist, you find that the bottom of this tunnel, or at least as far as you can go, wasn't that much further far below the goat. You go down maybe another 200 feet. And at the bottom, you see the rest of this circular well seems to be filled with rubble. It doesn't appear as though you can go any further. Off to the side, you can see half buried is an archway, but it only comes up to about like Aurelia's waist. It's like 3 feet high at most at the center of the archway. And it seems to lead out into some larger dark level. But you can, as you're watching it, you can hear a cow moo. But it sounds sort of
Is there a whole
muffled.
farm down here?
Yeah, you hear a muffled cow moo.
I wonder if some strange fucking black hole like business happened here too.
Maybe a broken teleportation circle doesn't mean it doesn't teleport. It just means that it just teleports everything.
This is the power source. It's not even the teleport circle. Maybe it just doesn't make it.
Well, you can tell that like the stairs did go down further once upon a time, but the stairwell has been filled.
So, wait a minute. Is this where the water is now?
You don't see
Right.
any water where you are now.
Filled with rubble, or
Yeah, it appears to be rubble.
Okay.
I mean, it appears as though the shaft collapsed beneath this point and partially filled up what was an archway. Although you're now below the level of the lake. So, you know, this probably was close to the power source.
can't talk.
So what do you want
At
to
that
do?
point, I would probably reform.
So you reform, it's the same sensation of being hit with this heat and humidity.
Yeah, I guess T-hold reform too.
Is there no place for us to move forward? Like,
You can't go down any further. There's this half open archway where the cow moo is coming from.
I'm just gonna go there. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna transform back yet. I'm just gonna peek through, see if I can see anything. I don't know if there's any light.
What's the
past it.
range? What's the range on a light spell?
20 and
30
20.
feet or, oh yeah, 20 and 20.
So you can see you appear to be standing there. There is water ahead of you as you emerge from the archway. It's about 15 feet through the arch itself. You appear to be, I mean, it might be like a underground river. You're not really sure. It's not very big, the water in any way, in any event. And you can see there seems to be more dry land on the far side of it. There is a lot of rubble filling this room as if the ceiling partially collapsed. And even as you're looking, all of you can see the wall shaking. Clave, since you've turned back, you could feel the earth shifting under your feet as if there is an earthquake passing through.
Guess we would walk after reforming in a minute.
You don't see any sign of a cow, but that, you know, you're in a circular, essentially, tube, so it may be on the far side. The light is only
Click.
spilling out the opening, so most of this room is dark. You can't see the walls of whatever this room is.
The shaking, is it strong enough that it makes me think that the structural integrity of this place might be at risk?
Well, you can see a lot of rubble. You can make me an investigation check. So you realize that the shaking is pretty sporadic. If it were an earthquake, you would expect it to be a little more sustained. And you realize this actually could be more like something that is just slamming into the walls or slamming into the ground, something huge.
Okay. Well,
But from the rubble, you can tell that there must be sections that are prone to falling. Like other rocks could fall since so many did. But you don't get a sense that at least the immediate area is about to collapse completely.
all right. So guys, I think either the attack on Lucianum has started, or there might be something very big and very angry still ahead of us.
What makes you think that the attack on Lucianum wouldn't have started?
Well, the shaking is intermittent. So either it's the smashing of meteors that are thought that we were told were going to be impacting the ground around the city, and they're significant enough to be felt all the way out here, or there's something very much closer and very much more immediately concerning. Do we hear any kind of shouting, yelling sounds other than the cow mooing that might?
No, you do occasionally hear additional goats. And hearing it, you become aware that there's more than one cow.
You know, these Itarans were pretty sophisticated. Maybe there's something down here that they were feeding, and they have some way of creating cattle.
It's like create food and water, but on an enormous scale.
Yeah.
Create livestock.
So, ow, through the river, look like it's a deep river, or is it a fast moving river?
Are you gonna crawl out of the stairwell?
Oh yeah, yeah. So I would have crawled through that archway.
Okay, so you're not
I would
exactly sure.
reform on the other side of it.
Right. You looking up, you can't see the ceiling of this room. But when you come out, you can tell that the walls, at least immediately in front of you, are about they're just about 60 feet away. They're just about at the limit of your dark vision. You can also tell once you emerge that you're essentially on a little island. And it's not so much, it's probably not a river. It is more like you are in a lake underground and an island in the middle of the lake. As you emerge from the stairwell, which stretches up behind you inside like a stone column that runs through what you imagine is roughly the middle of this room, this cavernous room. On the far side of it, essentially behind you as you crawl out, you see there is an enormous, it is almost like a wine glass turned upside down, but it's about 15 feet in diameter. And rather than like a long stem, there's like a short stem and a knob that looks almost like a handle, but it would be like a handle for something enormous. Inside this upturned glass-like structure, you see there are 3 cows and 3 goats. The glass is sort of perched half on the island and half overhanging part of the lake. One of the goats and one of the cows seem to be taking a drink from the lake. Although you realize from the steam rising that the lake is exceptionally hot.
Mhm. So at this point, I would cast dancing lights to cause the 4 globes of light to kind of fly through this area so that to better see what's going on.
Okay, so which directions are you sending these lights?
I think one of them I'm going to send up towards the ceiling because you said that we couldn't see the ceiling.
Right.
And then one a little bit down the way of the river, and then 2 would be over by this glass container and the livestock that we see.
Okay, so sending the light up, you realize the ceiling is probably about 100 feet overhead. It is a ceiling. Parts of it seem like it has collapsed, and it's just another dark space above it. You're not sure how far those sections extend, but the entire room is looking pretty rough. You can see that there are columns, 4 columns in this room, 3 of which have fallen over completely, 1 of which is still standing, and then the central column that contains the stairwell. Other than rubble and water in this glass structure, that is all you initially see. Although you then hear, "More food, new food. So long I have waited." And a column of flame erupts from an enormous red dragon far off in the corner.
Yep. We finally get to do it. We finally get to fight a dragon.
In a dungeon. We did the thing, guys. We did the thing.
We
see
win
that-
D&D. Well,
That is where we'll end it, because if you fight this thing, it'll take a while, but you could also nope out of here because you've been known to do that.
We just gotta find a great hiding space for 1 minute. We could just dip the fuck out. That's
So
all
I mean,
it
so
takes.
there's also the dragon is aware you're here because it's a dragon, and one of you has a light spell cast on him and dancing lights flying around.
Mhm.
yeah.
Hold monster. Everybody transform. Got it.
But you do remember controlling dragons was like a thing for this particular outpost once upon a time.
Right.
And I'll say, Mike guessed it exactly. That is why there is this magical glass vessel that can conjure cattle. That is the spell, by the way. Conjure cattle.
Awesome.
Jesus Christ, how long has this fucking dragon been down here?
Well, at least more than 1400 years, probably.
Yeah.
So